Good morning and welcome to the Science of Mind Saturday conversation with the Science of Mind textbook. My name is Rev Laura and I am just feeling so humbled and grateful to be here on New Thought Media Network and to be sharing today with you. If you're here, then welcome, 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 wherever you are, whoever you are, drop a line in the comments and let me know that you are here if you'd like to. And also, this is a conversation. Good morning, Shay. Good morning, good morning. Great to be with you. Howdy, Wayne. Good to be with you. How are you, Wayne? And it's nice to be smiled at. It is. Oh, wow. Yes, there's a big smile happening today. It's a smile of the divine, smiling in us and through each of us. So let's catch that smile as we journey and adventure with this beautiful textbook that is absolutely just a treasure trove of wisdom and knowledge and information. And today we are with chapter 21. Wow, making headway here through the book. So if you have your book with you and you'd like to get it, give you a moment there, or if you have it, then open it to page 347, because this is where we're continuing right now. And of course, this is Saturday morning Science of Mind textbook conversation. So it may feel as if it's a little bit of a one-sided conversation with me here speaking. And so the reason that it's called conversation is because we really, really value your input, your ideas, your understandings, and you writing them down and sharing them, because we can go off into little tangents if you want to about this. It really is a conversation that is inclusive and involving everybody here that's watching. So I'm going to begin here with, I just find this really, really interesting that this particular chapter 21, some phases of the subjective life. This chapter is in the midst of chapter 20, what the mystics have taught, and next week, the chapter that Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson will be sharing and conversing on, finding the Christ. And as I'm speaking through this and just sharing here, what I find really intriguing is that, and quite, if this was purposefully placed in this place, this chapter, I believe that what he is saying is that the mystics have known this all along. The mystics have known about the law and mind, and to understand, or to get a deeper understanding of our unification with Christ consciousness and the spark of the divine, the illuminated kind of light consciousness, then we are invited to have a deeper understanding of how we can use the law, the creative law. And so that's my first take here, that it's just an interesting placement here. I think Holmes has placed this in specifically in between these chapters. So we can start to understand that we are the power and we can use the power. We are powerful because we can use the power of the creative law. And it's not only about the creative law, it's about our placement in this, and as human beings and doings and spiritual human beings, how we get to co-create, and create the experience that we desire. Now, just as a little 2 minutes here, I just wanted to share this because I find this really interesting. As Ernest Holmes was writing this, which really delves into there's quite a lot of psychology in these few pages. And what was interesting for me is what I realized is that at the time that he was writing the textbook, there was a lot going on in the collective around psychology and inventions and all sorts of new things that were popping through to allow us, or allow humanity, to see and experience life differently. We had Carl Jung, who was really looking at the collective unconscious, and he was really investigating this from a a psychological point of view, and yet he went into the dream world and the dream state, and how the collective consciousness gives meaning to our lives, our worlds. And Freud was looking at the ego and the id and the unconscious, and how the ego operates within consciousness. And this is really interesting to me because, you know, both of these psychologists were around and doing their work at the same time that Holmes was alive. Carl Jung and Ernest Holmes were born like a year of each other and transitioned a year, something like not long after each other. Then at the same time, I went off onto a tangent here. We had helicopters invented, you know, personalized travel. You can just go up into the air, just like that, in a pod. And walkie-talkies, you know, airwaves, voice through the airwaves, transmitting voice through the airwaves. And the photocopier, the Xerox came through. I just wanted to share this because I believe that Ernest Holmes was writing this at a time when incredible things were happening culturally and socially, and understandings in science were happening. And I think he may have been very aware that this is, you know, that the law is happening, and these things are happening in maybe seemingly some psychologically, and yet there is something else, something really expanded, something that is infinite and eternal, which is this Christ consciousness. So he's sharing here in this chapter that we do not have two minds. There's two dual aspects, and there's one mind. There's one thing that's happening. So he must have had to be aware that with all of this psychological investigating and research and scientific showing and discovering of ways of thinking, that he knew also that there was something else happening beyond the psychology of how we think. And he's peeling off the layers here. And what I love about this chapter is that he puts his cards on the table here. He talks about telepathy. We'll talk about this in a moment, and clairvoyancy and mediums, and you know, the otherworldly kind of how we could psychics and prophesizing. And what else I want to share just before I share a little bit here is that, you know, he was a student or an observer of the work of Thomas Troward, not a physical student. He observed the work of Thomas Troward, which was all about the law. So this particular chapter, few pages, is very heavily influenced by, I believe, his understanding of Thomas Troward's work. And he talks a lot about the subjective mind and the objective mind, the subjective being the subconscious and the objective being the conscious or the effect. Although from my understanding, it's all effect, because there's one thing that's happening, first cause, which is cause, and thought is an effect. Thought is an effect. So you'll get, you know, you'll hear more about that next week with Finding the Christ and Christ consciousness, where we go beyond thought. Meanwhile, we're here, and we know that we think. We're aware, we're self-aware, and that's what differentiates us from animals. You know, we have that self-awareness where we can commune and connect with the divine in any moment that we choose. We have choice, we have free will, and we have a knowing of how to use that free will. So can we use the way that we think? And we can use the way that we think. So he begins by bringing us into this idea that there is a subjective mind, and it is our mental emanation in the universal subjectivity. So very kind of complex terminology. And what he really is saying, or what's being said here, is that my mind, your mind, Reverend Robert's mind, thank you, Reverend Dr. Robert, who's producing the show today. It's the one mind. It's one mind. We are individualized as this one mind, with the way that we have this free will, and we have our own unique individualization of the one mind, and it is one mind, it is one thing that is happening, and that we pick up on thoughts or that are held in the collective consciousness, and we can choose to bring those ideas into our own lives or our own experience. And that's why we each have a very different understanding and perception of life, because we see and choose the thoughts that we think and see life as we choose to see it, individually and uniquely. Please, if you have any comments or any questions, or if you'd like me to stop and while you're sharing here, then please let me know in the chat. If I'm looking down, it's because I'm going to hold the book up. So he talks about this subjective mind, which is the seat of all memory. It's everything. He calls it race consciousness. I don't. I call it mass consciousness. And that's purely from the context in which he's speaking and the times in which he's using that word. And I prefer to use the word mass consciousness. It means more for me. And he talks about this subjective mind, the seat of all memory. Everything that's ever been done, ever been said, ever been thought, ever been, every attitude, every feeling, this memory, which we can call the universal subjective law, which is holding everything. It's holding everything, and it's like a big sponge that is holding every past experience and every now experience and every future, maybe, possibly experience. That would be like the Akashic records, but he doesn't really go into that so much. But it is the seat of all memory. So it would be future because it holds cause and effect. So let me just go into the chart here, which is this. Whoops, got my fingers in here. So this here is the metaphysical chart number 1 in the book. And it's that middle section there. Really, I think I needed to have got this up as a template, but I didn't. Anyway, it's here. It's that middle section with all of the terminology around soul, universal, collective, karmic law, the illusion of mind, subjective, unchoosing, because the universal law is impersonal. So it will receive everything from us, and it will evolve itself as the thought. It will evolve itself as our thoughts. It will do that. It is one big yes portal, and it is impersonal. It doesn't have an opinion about what we're thinking. It will respond to what we're thinking by to the degree that we believe it. So if you can think of an example in your life where you would like something to happen, or like something to change, or if you want to see something different for our world, for our planet, then of course we put in the thoughts. And do we really believe? Maybe this is something for the end of the talk. Do we really believe it, or are we saying it because it's a habit and we think that's what we want? Because we are really good at remaining in the habitual pattern of what we think we want until we start to question it. And I just want to bring this in here because this is the powerful work of a religious science practitioner, because a practitioner will hold that space and allow for the mental cause to be, the truth to be revealed of the situation that we go to that practitioner for. because we can't see us. We can't see ourselves so clearly. It takes another to see us and to hear it from a new and fresh perspective. And then we kind of get that aha moment of, oh my God, yes, of course. That's why this has been happening, because I have a continual pattern of a thought pattern. And so different situations are showing up in different ways to to hold that pattern in place until we dissolve the pattern by having a new thought and having a new idea of our lives. So the law is not judging us. It's saying yes, because that is the all givingness of life. That is the all goodness and greatness of life. It is God's pleasure, the divine's pleasure, to fulfill our dreams and our wishes. It is that genie rubbing the lamp. Rub it and believe it, and it is so. And sometimes we don't believe it and we still want it, or we still desire it, and we don't believe it. And when we know that the law is always operating, we can make that conscious choice using free will to make a change in the way that to the degree that we believe that we truly want it. And if we don't really believe it, then get back to the mental cause and have a look and see what those beliefs are that are holding us back and limiting us from experiencing the fullness of what it is that we desire. Because what you want, the vision that you have, the dreams that you have, those wonderful things that you write on your vision board, or you put the pictures on your vision. I've got a written vision board here, and I've got a picture one in there. Those things that I think will really be great for my life, and that I really want to experience and enjoy. Those things are already here in mind, because yes, if I can think it and it's in my heart, then there's no disconnection between me and mind. It's already done. It's already done. My job is to open up, to allow it to come through, to allow the experience to be that I desire. So you can see how beliefs and thoughts and patterns of the way that we think, and ideologies and concepts, and the ways that we've been taken on all of these beliefs, and they've become so natural as a part of the way that we behave in our lives and the choices that we make. They run our lives, and this is 95% of it is unconscious, subconscious, unconscious. 95% of it is happening on autopilot without us really realizing, until something happens that says, you got to change this, or you can change this. So that is Ray's suggestion. Let's read a little bit from here. When we realize that the individual's subjectivity is their own use of the one subjective mind. As I said, it's not your mind and my mind, it's one mind happening everywhere. Then we shall see that a subjective unity is maintained between all people, and that individual mentalities who are in sympathetic vibration with each other more or less mingle and receive suggestions from each other. This is the law of attraction. This is, we're bringing to us, we're drawing to us, like what water will find its own level. And as humans, beings and doings here, we will, with this incredible capacity to use our thought, and subconsciously, we don't even know what we're doing, we're drawing those to us that are resonating with the mental atmosphere that we have. So we will kind of like pool together until we realize that if this isn't a good situation, or if these people aren't the people, whatever it is, or I want to bring more of myself to this situation and make a change and a ripple and of transformation here, We are the power for this. You are the power for this. You can do this right now. So this is the meaning of mental influence. Well, I mean, look at it now. We have influencers all over the place, which indeed is a very real thing. And we are influencing ourselves and each other all the time. And so it's like the subjective state is, I see it as it's almost like I know where I want to be. I know I want to be in that high frequency continually. I want to bypass thought. I want to be in that place, that high frequency, high vibration of love and peace and joy and beauty and abundance. And I want to stay connected with that. I am always connected, but stay aware of that connection the whole time. And there is this law, this collective, universal, subjective law that is happening. It's something real. We can't see it, and yet it is happening because it's an idea of God. So the law is always working to take the seed of the new thought and to bring it forwards. What happens, though, is that with lower levels of awareness, we can tend to just mix and merge and meld in with the norm without questioning it, without taking ourselves to that more expanded place. We can kind of cruise at this place where we think, well, this is life, this is it, this is all there is. I can't change, I can't do it, so I'm just going to kind of stay in this kind of place, which often is not very comfortable, but we just kind of accept things the way they are. So we have work to do, because we can use the law and we can bypass this mass suggestion. We can create our own lives. So he's saying here, yes, there's race suggestion, and be aware of it, and yet come through that and know that there's something greater happening, something so divine that that is the ultimate, that we can live from that source. A bit like maybe what he's doing here, as he's bearing in mind that the psychology of all of this, and yet he knows there's divinity. There is this mystical way. And this is the metaphysical part here, where we can use the law. So let's use it for the greatest good of our lives, so that we live our best lives and we do our best work, and we have a great influence on ourselves and the ripple that we send out for those around us. And that is an invisible ripple, so it will be picked up infinitely. There's no limitation to it. Any questions? Cup of tea? Any comments? Anything? There's a lot in here. It's quite a providence. Hi, Shay. If the law is impersonal. So could you just please clarify what you mean by providence? Does that mean fate? I'm unsure of what the meaning of the word providence is. I need to know what that meaning of that word is. Providence. So the law is impersonal, and we can test that out for ourselves, that the law is impersonal. And that's a really good question here, because I did mark something also in here about the law being that he's written, that he kind of takes it for granted that the law is impersonal. And I realize that he is taking it. Okay, thank you, Shay. So it means in God's favor that God is arranging, just if you could leave that up for a moment, Reverend Robert, thank you. God is arranging things in our lives and on the planet. Wow. So we have free will. We have free will. So I can take this cup and I can move it from where it was to where I want it to be, or I can sit here with it and hold it. And that is, I'm making those choices from my desire. So I believe God is arranging something. God is arranging the qualities that it is, It is arranging for love and peace, joy, prosperity, freedom, justice, wisdom, for these qualities to be emulated and emanated everywhere as they are. And they're in their fullness as God right here and now. We have free choice. So if you're talking about, well, will there be, can we, I mean, this links in with something that he's talking about here. Let's talk about this, because this, I'm not ignoring that. Okay. So we have free will to make our choices, to make new choices. In every moment we have free will. And I've said this loads and loads of times. Okay, there are 275 ways to do the washing up. That's actually a scientific study that was done about 15 years ago with a whole bunch of students in the UK, and they asked them to wash up, and they all washed up differently. Each and every single one of them, 275 different ways to wash up. Now, if you think about now, this moment, right here, now, is all there is. You hear this a lot. I hear it a lot. There's only now. There's only now. And there's only now. And in this now, we can make a choice. And in this now, we make a choice and we make a decision about that choice. We either believe it or we don't believe it. We act on it or we don't act on it. And this is every single individual on the planet, right here and now, acting out the infinite potential of possibilities of choices that we can each perceive in this moment. Because this cup can be anywhere in this room. There are millions of different choices of where this cup can be. I am the one putting the cup down. I am the one making the choice as to where it goes. It isn't a robot cup yet, so it won't walk towards me. It's going to stay there until it doesn't. So we're all making choices. Now, the higher, or no, not higher, the more expanded awareness we have of this, then we then can have an opportunity to make different choices for our lives. And those different choices are cumulative. So, for example, we're here on New Thought Media Network. And New Thought Media Network is a choice of programming that is constantly programmed, different shows every single day, every single week, every single month. The programs come out consistently. It's a choice by those that are creating the programs to be here to do this. And from that choice, the programs, the network is here doing itself as a network. Now, it could be that the network is here and there's a choice for the programs to be here and the presenters don't show up. So then the programs don't happen. So that's a bit, I think, that's kind of an example for our lives and for what this teaching is about in this particular portion of the book. That when we have a vision and we seed it into the law or into the mind of the divine, and we hold that vision and we can't see it happening, that many times we give up on ourselves. You know, we might want that new home, or we might want better communication or different communication with our loved ones, or we might desire to increase income. You know, I work with women and This is a big desire of many people. Of course it is, that we want to experience a different understanding of prosperity for our lives. And so there's a desire for this, and we will say a spiritual mind treatment. We will know it in truth. We will know that we are an infinite experiencing an infinite experience here, a cosmic experience. And yet, when we don't see it happening, we tend to, the mind, our mind will take us back, our use of the mind will take us back to the other beliefs that do not support the vision coming through. So this is why it's really important, I believe, to understand that there is no such thing as competition. And there is no such thing as one person having luck and another not. What it is awareness. And we each have a different awareness or a different understanding of how we are able to use the power of our ideas, our thoughts, our decisions, and the one mind. And we're all doing that differently. My spiritual mentor here in the UK said to me many a time, we cannot know what's in somebody else's consciousness. We can only work with what we know, where we are right now. Start where you are. Ernest Holmes says this. So if we desire something for our lives, to have a really greater experience of our lives, if we desire that, then it's our personal responsibility to seed that into the law, to have faith, to know that God is doing its thing. We're not going to go and dig up the seeds and check that the seed is growing under the ground. It's already grown, it's done. Because the law, when we plant that seed, the law is holding that thought as cause and effect. It's all in there, already done. That's why the teaching circle symbol, there is a circle around it, even though it is an infinite expression of this teaching. He put a circle around it to say that it's all encapsulated and there's really nothing outside of it. And so we can use it right here and now. Hoping this is making sense. Just had to say that. Please give me a yes or a no. Either way, I can share a bit more. I know I've gone on a little bit of a wordy thing here, but we each are responsible for cultivating our own mental equivalent and our own mental atmosphere. And he talks about mental atmosphere in here on page 350 as a thought vibration. So we can be in that expanded vibration or frequency, which is the frequency of love and knowing that there is enough of everything for everyone. But what happens is we take on these beliefs that there isn't enough and that it's only for a certain few, or some people can and some people can't. And I know that to not be true. Because I know and I have experienced that not being true. And I have witnessed others' experience of this where it's not true. It's a decision that we make in our hearts to live our own experience in the fullest way that we can, using the law, using the creative law. So he goes on to talking, and I really admire him for this. And I really love this. And I think that he probably was somebody that I think Ernest Holmes would have talked to so many different people from so many different ways of thinking. He would have been so interested. I think if he were around now, he'd be going to space conferences and quantum science conferences, and he'd be going to huge astronomy lectures. I think he would just be lapping up what's happening now as our understanding of all of this really opens at greater, opens more expansively to understanding what he said at the beginning of the textbook, that he looks forward to a day when science and spirituality and science walk hand in hand together to reveal from the seen to the unseen. I think he would be doing this now, and he would be looking more at telepathy and psychics and mediums and clairvoyance, because he does not deny in these pages, he's not denying that it's a real thing and actually it's okay. He says that somewhere. These people we call psychics, but really all people are psychics, since all have a soul or subjective mind. So he's saying everyone can tap into the mind and tap into the maybe Akashic record or the law, and know that whatever is there, we can pick up on it, because we are the receiver and the transmitter. We can pick up on what's going on. Some people are just more highly attuned for this, though, and they have a tendency to be able to do it in a really in a very clear way for themselves. But he does go on to say that he's not denying the effectiveness of psychic, of mediums, of clairvoyance, of telepathy, because it's all about using the law, the mental law. And that's what this chapter here is all about: the subjective, the unconscious, the subconscious, not the unconscious, the subconscious, which is operating, not in our full conscious awareness. So then he talks a little bit further about prophecy. And there was one piece that I really found interesting that he was saying about prophecy in here. But let me just read this, because the spirit of prophecy, we have explained, this is page 353. We have explained how it is that the psychic vision can look into the past and see what has transpired. By reason of the fact that, this is the piece that I was wanting to share with you. We have explained how it is that the psychic vision can look into the past and see what has transpired. We can look back at our lives and we can see what has happened. By reason of the fact that it is dealing with a field in which there is no past, because there is only now, there is this moment, there is this now moment, this eternal now moment. It's our brain that wants to keep it in a memory in the past, and yet it is all happening right now as a collapsed moment. So there is no past, there is no present, and there is no future, but merely a continuation of beingness. And this is what we come to in the next chapter with the mystics, and what we really are here to be aligned with is our beingness. Because this is so, any incident which has transpired in the past is an active thing in the present. This is the piece, and I don't know why he didn't put it in italics, because I do honor every time that he does that in the book. Everything goes into big bold italics, but this bit isn't. Any incident which has transpired in the past is an active thing in the present until the vibration is neutralized. And that's why, or one of the reasons why, we would see a practitioner, or we would use spiritual mind treatment for our lives. We're neutralizing the pattern. We have to be our own detectives. We have to be our own spiritual detectives. And we can see patterns of how things are popping up for our lives, and that we can see how that tapestry outpictures when things aren't going the way we want them to go, or we think that they should be going. So this, I hope, answers your question, Shay, in that there is no prophecy, because we're self-fulfilling that in every moment, with every choice, with every thought, with every word. we are creating our own tapestry. And some of us have bad days. Just want to say that. Some of us have bad days and the stitching kind of goes all over the place. And some of us are, better at doing that tapestry and have an image. It's like being an artist. There is a blank canvas, and we can, into the law, we can paint that picture for our lives. And to the degree that we believe it, and we have that of the faith of God, to the degree that we are absolutely practicing the faith of the divine, will it appear. If there's a house divided thing happening, and there's incongruency happening, and there's a mental dispute going on within our minds, yes, I want it, and yeah, but, or no, not me, or how could that ever happen, or all the questioning that we do, that also goes into the law. And Shay, we don't know what anyone else is thinking. And so we can only work with ourselves. That's it. There's only me here. There's only me experiencing this experience. There's you experiencing your experience as me. And so he talks a lot about prophecy. And one of the things I think that I picked up from this about prophecy, because I feel there's a lot on the 2 pages, 354 and 355, is that he's saying that we can prophesize our lives by seeing the pattern of, taking the experience right now and seeing the patterns in our lives that may have brought us to this experience or the appearance of this experience. And from that, we could prophesize into what we call the future of how things would go. So it's like a timeline. We can take a timeline of our lives. We can look back at relationships, for example. We can look back at the quality of our relationships with friendships, or with our loved ones, or if you have children, with children. And we can look at the quality of the communication, and we can look from all the moments up until now, and we can see now and see how that relationship is. And we can prophesize from that point, from this point forwards, as to how it may be. And then from there, we can make decisions about, well, are there changes I can make in the way that I communicate? Can I see my life differently in the way that I speak with others, feel with others, the way that I have patience for others, or I'm listening as they're speaking? All of these things. Mental tendencies set in motion. This is it, page 355. Mental tendencies. That's our mental atmosphere. That's the kind of the general thought pattern that we have. Mental tendencies set in motion cast their shadows before. So we can see now, we can look at our lives and we can say, yeah, okay, if I continue like this, then this will be the result. And so I can make a change if I choose to. I can make a change. And a psychic often sees the complete manifestation of an idea before it had time to materialize in the objective world. The thing is, though, as a religious scientist, I don't want to rely on psychics, because a psychic, and Ernest Holmes would agree here, I think, is somebody that will state it and then place another idea in my mind of how it might be. And this is why I think he's placed this chapter before the next chapter, which is finding the Christ. Because when we find the Christ, consciousness, or let's even call it light consciousness, that might be an easier word, an easier vibrational word to have in our hearts. When we know this, then we're not going to listen to someone else's interpretation of what they think or who they think we are or how our life will transpire, because all of that is seeding into the law. And of course, it is done unto us as we believe. So this is why self-reliance and responsibility and personal responsibility for what we believe and what we take in is vital here. We can seek others for advice. We can seek others. We can listen to others that might say, yes, this will happen or that will happen. And yet, what I know is that when that happens, all of that's going into the creative law, all of it. And so we have to be mindful about who we're talking to about our dreams and desires, what we're choosing to believe about life, and kind of wiping the dust off of the lens of the perception that we see our lives as, and knowing and realizing, and I'm guiding into next week here with Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson, that when we find the Christ, we bypass the thoughts. And it's not a spiritual bypass. It's actually, it's a gift to ourselves not to get too hung up on what we're saying and thinking, and to stay in the light, the illumination of the potential of all possibilities that are happening right here. That potential is happening right here and now in this moment. So it's all possible. It's all possible. And God ideated this law, this subjective side of life. It's not separate from God. It's all one. It's all God doing its thing. And we are here on Earth School to work this all out and figure it all out. And Ernest Holmes and many teachers that have gone before and are here now, are working and do have these templates. And this is a template for life. This is a how to do life if you choose to. And this particular chapter is right in the, my gosh, it's kind of like right in the middle of the book, 347. It really is right in the middle of the book. And it's probably like a turning point of the book, because before it we have what the mystics have taught, and then we have law, because we're aware of the law, the creative law, and the subconscious, the subjective side of life. And then we go straight into Christ, finding the Christ next chapter, which would be great. Because really, if it was logical, this would be, Christ consciousness chapter would be here, because that's the teaching symbol. That's the kind of the layout of the teaching symbol, that it's kind of involving itself into form. So it's here on purpose before we get to realizing the truth. So this may be why I remember Reverend Mark Gilbert saying that the first half of the book dealt with metaphysics, and then Ernest Holmes became more and more aware of the mysticism, and that became kind of the second to nearing the end part of the textbook. And maybe this here is like that turning point piece. These 3 chapters are the turning point piece in here. So I'm honored to be sharing this. Really, it's like, oh, okay. So let's just pick out a little bit more. Are there any questions? Welcome in here. You're on New Thought Media Network. Fiona. The evidence of universal patterning is perhaps a matrix for the law of cause and effect. So could you just define that when you say the evidence for universal patterning? So the pattern is God. The pattern is God is the template. And God is in and as and through everything. And God ideated itself as law so that it could know itself as this kind of multi-dimensional, faceted experience, and that with free will, with us having this free will, we get to choose how we have this multifaceted dimensional experience. We get to choose it, and there's nothing outside of it. So that means that if we're here in physical form right now, if we're transitioned and not in physical form and here as another experience on another plane, we're all experiencing it. Or if we believe that we can kind of, in and out of different planes here and there, lucid dreaming, the mind will allow us to take ourselves to wherever we choose we want to be. So I think, to simplify what you're saying, is primordial template, infinite being as primordial. So do you mean God as all, as everything, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent? God is the divine template. And if we go back to the scriptures, I do read the Bible, I do read Genesis and the Word, and God said it was good, and it was good. And so God is creating this divine source, creative expression, infinite intelligence, whatever it is you want to call this thing, which love, this thing itself, is the template. Yes, you're right, Fiona. Couldn't quite get your languaging, but it is absolutely, you are right, that it is the one thing that has gone, let there be light. And as this light emanates and radiates in the different kind of vibrations, but it is this highest vibration. And here we're picking this up as different frequencies of this light. And so when we have a thought, if it's a lower frequency thought, we will draw to us an atmosphere of lower frequency experiences. And I don't choose that for my life. It doesn't mean I don't always get it, but it means that I'm aiming for that higher expanded frequency, because that is the God frequency. Although it's all God, that is the highest of. And so I can live that, and we can each live this. And so I really appreciate what you've just said, Fiona, because what I'm then really feeling is that we must take responsibility to use the law and to realize that there is something else also, where we can tap into our feelings and that feeling nature of the divine, of the Christ consciousness, of all love, and being the intentional vessel and portal of love, and sending that ripple, and knowing that we're not really sending it, we're knowing that right where we are as the experience and expression for our lives. Are there any other comments or questions? I think I want to leave it here, because I feel that it's 5 to the hour. There's a lot. I've said a lot. I've shared a lot. And I think this is a beautiful, beautiful chapter. Go back and read it and read it. I'm going to reread it this week. And there's always more information. Every time we read it, there's something else that can pop through. So I think my main kind of takeaway is to be aware of what it is that you're thinking, what you're feeling. And I don't mean every single thought. We can't, it's like it's impossible to monitor every single thought. To be aware of our mental atmosphere, of the mental atmosphere that we have. Look at our life, the reflection of our life that's mirrored back, or the mirror, how it's reflecting back. See where those areas are of things that aren't quite aligned. And then get back to the mental cause and know that the law is always operating, always doing its thing. And that we can put in the thoughts and the feelings and the idea for our lives, and that to the degree that we believe, it will be done as we think it, so it is. And so thank you, Reverend Robert, thank you, Fiona. Yes, a deep dive. I love it. And thank you, Reverend Robert, for producing and being here and inspiring this whole series. And yes, next week, Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson will be here, Finding the Christ. So tune into that, because I think it will be an amazing really interesting to hear what he is going to be sharing about this and Christ consciousness. And of course, the network is here all the time with great shows and programs. And there's a donation link, I think, that you can link into if you want to share that with the network. That is always greatly appreciated. And that is me for today. Thank you so much for being here, and blessings and peace and love and joy for you for today and always.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors and donors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, and all of our individual donors and sponsors. Thank you for being a part of the New Thought Media Network. Please come be you.